welcome into another of our X2 CRM basic training series. My name is Tom Carroll, and I will be your instructor for this session. And today we're going to be covering the calendar feature within X2 CRM. And the different things that we'll be covering will be access to calendar. There are several ways to do that. Setting up calendar events and looking at the multiple calendars that are available within the system. Now, to access the calendar, it's available via the top bar. And if you don't see it here, it's going to be under the More button. So I'm going to click on Calendar, and it will bring up this month's calendar, or you can also change it to showing this week or showing today. Typically, you're probably going to want to come up and see the month and then drill down to what you want to look at. So notice there are different colors within the calendar, which would designate they're assigned to different people in different calendars. An individual can have access to looking at other people's calendars and even putting events on other people's calendars if the admin has provided that permissioning capability. Notice I have 3 calendars checked: my own calendar, which shows up in blue, Chloe's. If I unclick Chloe's, notice the red events have disappeared. If I unclick Kevin's, notice the yellow has disappeared. But I'm going to bring them back in so I have availability of seeing what they have on their calendars. Now you can easily create calendars by clicking on the Create Calendar button over here. And notice you're going to give it a name. In this case, I'm going to create a team calendar. I'm going to say all the reps are going to have view permission and all the reps are going to have edit permission. I can also link to Google Calendars from here if I want to. I'm going to go ahead and create that. And notice now it's bringing everything up. Well, I'm back to actually my default, but notice there's a team calendar right here. If I click on that and I unclick these other ones, notice everything is blank. But I'm able to use that calendar if I want to do events that are specific to, say, team building or team oriented events. So that allows me to do that. If I want any help on this, if I click on Calendar Help, it will bring up the reference guide. Specifically, it will open up in a new tab and show the calendar reference within the reference guide. And this will go over many of the things that we're talking about in today's session. Now, to set up a calendar event, if I scroll down to the bottom, notice this highlight is that we're on today's date here. If I want to see, I've got, what do I have on today's calendar? I've got if I click on it, it'll bring up the details. So I've got a webinar scheduled for today. And I can close it and go from there, but all the details will show up on there. And I can do that with each of these. Maybe I want to see, if I want to look closer on a day, I can again look at a day view, and this is showing me today's. But I can also scroll to see, okay, what do I have coming up on Thursday? This just gives more area for detail for a specific day that you want to see. So again, you can look at days, weeks, or months. Now, to create an event, it's as simple as giving a description. Let's say that there's a seminar coming up that I want to attend. So I want to put it on the calendar. And that's coming up on, let's say, next week, Thursday. So I'm going to click on that. I can specify a time range. So let's say it starts at 9 a.m. But this is actually, so I can, again, put a time range on. So I'm going to say it's going to be 9 to 3. But I also can say, well, it's an all-day event. So I'm just going to click that, and it will just show up and say it's an all-day event. I can assign it to, notice it defaulted to my calendar. but I also have the capability of putting it on any other calendar. So I can create an event for someone else that I may want to attend or make aware that event is there. I can also assign it to, again, it defaults to me, but I can assign it to somebody else. And I also can assign it to multiple people. If I hold down the control key and click on others, it will now have it assigned to all three of us. Now I can set up priority, low, medium, high. I can have the color. I've been using blue for my events. I have a drop down here which can categorize it as far as an event subtype. Right now, it's just set up for 3 different things. Your admin can enhance this, change it, whatever you want. We could put a seminar. Event status is the same way. You can elaborate on that if indeed you want to. Visibility is, if it's public, everybody can see it. If I make it private, only those that are assigned to can see it. If it's to a user group, only those in the user group can see it. Now, I also can associate it with a record in the system. So I could click, if I would choose, say, contacts, I can associate this with a specific contact. If it's, I could associate it with a specific account. In this case, this is just going to be a general event of a seminar that I'm going to put on my calendar. Now, a couple other things. I could actually invite others to this event. When I click on invite, it opens up a box where if I enter email addresses, it will, when I save this, it will send out that email to those individuals. And in the email, it will also allow them to RSVP, and I'll get that response back. In this case, I'm not going to invite anybody. I also can set a reminder so that the assigned user, in this case, that is me, but either the assigned user or also me, who is logging in and creating the event, can receive a notification, and that can range anywhere from a minute up to a week in time. And so we'll be reminded that event is coming up. In this case, I'm not going to worry about that. When I click save, that's going to then put this event on the calendar. And again, if I click down into it, I'll see the details here and be able to be ready for that, that event and see that it is coming up. Now, a couple other things that you don't have to worry about over here, open appointments. There is a feature that is actually going to be enhanced in the next release, so I'm not going to touch on it here, but it allows you to show external individuals availability of setting appointments. And they can set an appointment and it will come back in and put it on your calendar. You can also export the calendar out, and this would help if you want to interface with external calendar applications. So we're not going to go into any deeper there. That's more of an admin function that they would set that up for you. So as you can see, the calendar allows you to keep track of all the things that you have going on. And this is by going directly into the calendar. Now there's a few other ways that you can actually get access to the calendar. If I go back to the dashboard, which as you've learned in earlier sessions, is really the home page of the application. That this is where you close up the agenda for today. But this is where you have a quick view of different data that's within the system. Well, there's also this hidden third column over here, or fourth column, I guess, that notice you have a view of the calendar. Now, this is just a very brief kind of view that at any point in time, you can bring this column in. You can be working in the dashboard. You can be working on a contact. You could be working on a lead or an opportunity. If you want to take a quick glance at your calendar, you can open up this column and see the calendar. Notice that the dots indicate there's appointments on those days or events on those days. The colors associated, those blues would be mine. So let's say I open up and, oh gosh, what do I have going on the 22nd? If I click down on that, it's going to open up the day view of that calendar, and I can see, oh, at 10 o'clock, I have this follow-up call that I need to do. If I click down on that, I can see the detail of that call. So the idea here is I can get at that calendar and, and see it without leaving where I'm at, and take a quick view of it, and go on and do whatever else I wanted to do. So that's one way of accessing the calendar. Another way, if I can create an action, and an action is like a reminder. Let's say I'm working with August here, and I'm clicking down into his detail record. And notice over here, as we talked about in earlier sessions, we can do comments, actions, log call, log time, and make a calendar event here. This calendar event is exactly like when I was in the calendar module. You set it up exactly the same way as you do there. Under actions, this is a little bit different in that you're setting up a reminder to do something, to remind yourself to do something in the future. So in this case, then you give it a due date because you want to stay on top of the things that you're doing. So I want to make sure I get this done by Friday. I want to call them, say, first thing. So I want to have it done by first thing Friday morning. Now, I could make it a high priority. Again, I could make visibility public or private. And I can assign that action to somebody else also. It will default to the user, which is me in this instance, but I could assign it to somebody else to follow up. I could create that reminder again, and that will notify me to make sure I got that call. Now, I also can add it to the calendar. Here's where the calendar feature comes into play. And I'm going to go ahead and add it to my calendar. And I'm going to go ahead and save it. Now, notice down here in the journal view, it shows that I created an action. That action was to follow up on the quote, and it's due on the 23rd. Now, if I go back to the calendar, we'll note that there's that action that I set. There's a follow-up call that I need to do. Now, from here, what's important is that I know the calls with August Bradford. I can go ahead and click on August on the View Contact button, and it takes me right to his detail record. So I have the phone number, I have the capability of putting in the results of that call. So I'm set up and ready to go to make that follow-up call that I wanted to do. So that's a second way. If I go back here to that. So that's a second way that I can access, or a third way actually, that I can access the calendar and put things on that calendar. So kind of the difference when you set up an event here in the calendar module, you're typically setting up an event type of thing. It may be a meeting, it may be a webinar or a seminar or some kind of event, and that's a good use of going right to the calendar. If it's something like a follow-up call, then you want to set that up through the actions, and so that you have a running list of what are those things that I need to get done. I can see everybody's actions here, or if I'm just looking at my actions, here's that follow-up call I just set up with August and when the due date is. So the idea is that I can look and see what are those things I have to do specifically on the particular dates, and then follow up with that. So again, you can access the calendar via the calendar module. You can call up in the right-hand column and get access to, since you're in the calendar, it's probably not going to show you then. But if you're at somewhere else in another module, you will have access to the calendar. There it is. Over on this hidden column, again, anytime I can hide it to make sure I can see all the data here. If I want to access to the widgets in here, I can open it up. Quick view of the calendar. I can click down to see any day. Let's look at that 23rd again. There's the follow-up call that I have scheduled on the calendar for that day. So This is really just a quick way to see what's going on. You can't actually set events from here, but again, it's a quick way without leaving where you're at to get access to that calendar. And then the other way is to through the action feature, where if you're in a particular entity like a contact or an account or a lead, and you're setting an action, you can put that on your calendar, or you can do a full calendar event from that particular contact. So those are, it's an overview of how our calendar works and how it operates and how you get access to it.